So it's been a while since I've done one of these videos. I finished the exterior of the Evo, so that's all good news. And now I'm gonna start going into the engine. I'm gonna see if I could do a summary of what I've done to the car and see if I could post that video before this video. But right now we're gonna start officially with the engine build. And the first thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna install gauges for the Evo. It's very important to monitor the car, and what I'm gonna install first for tuning purposes is AFR, the usual AFR and boost gauge, and then later on I'll probably do the oil pressure. And then later on I want to figure out the whole radio thing, where I make the whole radio into like all the gauges basically show up in the double din. But for now, for tuning purposes, I need to get an AFR and a boost gauge installed, and we'll go from there. So this is what I'm going to be installing. I'm going to be installing the AEM X Series air fuel ratio gauge and the AEM X Series X Series boost gauge. And then I am going to do it in the steering column. Looks the best, looks for me, OEM wise, since I have the double din. This is the only route I could go. I don't really like the the triple pillar here. I want to keep it as OEM as possible. I'm also going to be doing a cam sensor gasket that has been kind of leaking right here. I feel like it's leaking, so I am going to do that. I'm going to change the little O-ring, and I'm going to install a heat shield because I think that's why it's leaking, because the heat is so close to the cam sensor that it causes to leak. That's my opinion. And since I'm gonna install an exhaust manifold, tubular exhaust manifold, one of the tubings go like right here next to this. So I'm just gonna go ahead just for precaution and install this. This was pretty cheap from JD Custom. There's their Instagram if you wanna order it from them. jdcustomsusa.com. You can go ahead and order these. These are like 20 bucks, I think, and it's pretty precautious. Comes with this bolt and everything, and it was pretty good. These are the part numbers for the gauges I'm gonna be installing, just in case you guys want to order them. And again, these are the X Series. And now for this steering column gauge setup, it's an autometer gauge. I don't know if you could really see the part number there, but I ordered all of this basically except this, the JD Custom heat shield cover, all of it in STM Tune. They basically, stmtune.com, they have every single part that you can imagine for Evos. It's like a little, I don't know, it's like a toy store when you were little, literally. Like they have everything you can imagine on their website. So, all right, so one of the first things we're gonna be doing is making sure we unplug the battery for safety reasons. And I'm gonna do the boost gauge first, since this is an MR. It already has a vacuum hose that was connected to the original boost gauge that it had. So all I literally have to do is just connect the sensor and get some power, which I'm gonna do with this, which I'm gonna explain what this is for. This is just to tap in into the OEM fuse box, so I don't have to, splice anything or anything like that, make it as clean as possible. And yeah, so we'll start with this. Then I actually have to raise the car, because for the AFR, I need to connect the O2 sensor into the downpipe, which I think already has a bung, so I don't have to weld anything, and we'll go from there. So let me get the car raised up, let me unplug the battery, and go from there. Battery has been disconnected and the car has been raised. Now let me show you what comes in these gauges itself. All that comes in the boost gauge. And now for the air fuel ratio gauge, which is this one, let me first show you the gauge itself. This is the air fuel ratio gauge. And this is what comes inside the box of the air fuel ratio gauge, which is the O2 sensor. I think it's a Bosch, the one that comes in with AEM wiring, or this is the power wiring gram, like I said. And some of these cables are going to be for logging, data logging and all of that. So we are going to be using that because we are going to be e-tuning this car. And then the same thing, clamps, and then this is the bung for you to weld into your downpipe or exhaust. And this is the actual cable that gets connected into the sensor, and this gets connected into the boost gauge. I mean, not boost gauge, AFR gauge. And then we have the gauge, which again, I have to loosen these out. But basically same thing. All right, so the first thing we're gonna start with is the actual boost gauge itself. For me, it's gonna be easy because like I said, I have an MR, so it already has a boost gauge from OEM. But let me show you basically what is it that you have to do. You have to get, for power, since it's a digital gauge, this is the harness that you have. You need to get power and a ground. These are super easy. I'm gonna show you what I'm gonna tap in. But before you get to power and ground, you need to route a vacuum line from your intake manifold into the inside of your car. So Mitsubishi, since it already has a vacuum line, I'm gonna show you guys exactly where Mitsubishi tapped in and installed a T-clamp that is supplied by AEM. This little T vacuum line thing. Mitsubishi takes it from this right here. So you see how they installed the T right there. It comes in from the intake manifold and it continues into, I think this is the fuel pressure something. But basically Mitsubishi gets it from here. They put in that clamp, and then you could use zip ties. They use these little clamps, and this hose, just so you know how long it is, gets routed from here all the way through here. Then it goes in through the fender, continues right there as you can see, and then gets into that grommet right there and goes into the driver's side. So basically continues through here and goes in through the middle console, but I'm gonna be doing the pots in the top. So I already have a vacuum line, but if you were to have to do this and you don't have an MR, you could tap in here, or you could even use the blow off T-clamp right here. You could like tap into this. So literally all you have to do is install one of these somewhere else. For example, right here you can install one and literally just run in the vacuum line through one of these holes right here. Your choice of where to put in the vacuum line is up to you. There's a couple of grommets that you could use to just pass in the vacuum line. Some people drill through the actual firewall. I wouldn't do that just to not mess up, your OEM car. But if you want to tap in and just send it directly through there, you can. You just have to drill like a small hole and just make sure that you put in a grommet. So yeah, after that, now what I'm gonna do is, this is the actual sensor because again it's a digital gauge. So I'm gonna put some, what is it called, PVC tape or something like that, the white tape here. Connect this, put in the vacuum line through here, and then it's pretty much as simple as connecting this to the sensor and getting power and ground, connecting this to the actual gauge and turning the car on and seeing if everything's working. All right, so this is what I was talking about. I was talking about this pipe thread seal tape. So when you just precaution, and I don't know where I read that, but just make sure that you do this step just to make sure that nothing's leaking and you actually get a good reading. Basically ready to go on the car. Now the other thing that I bought for power for these gauges is I bought a add-in circuit fuse that they sell in advance. This was like $5. Basically, so I don't have to tap into anything that's already has power, and I don't have to, basically break or anything like any wire. I just literally, I'm gonna put this on an empty fuse box holes under the dash, and this is gonna give me power. But you do want to make sure that you do it on one that only has power when you turn on your AC key, because you don't want the gauge to be on when the car is not actually on. So I'm gonna show you what location I'm gonna power this through, and basically connect the power to. So I actually chose to connect this thing on was the Fort 1 on the fuse box, because as you can see, the Fort 1 doesn't have anything. It's completely empty, which is this one right here. and I turned it on, and it has power when I put it in the key on the on position, and it doesn't have power. So literally all I'm gonna do is connect this. Let me see if I can do this with the camera on. Literally all you have to do is, sorry, it's kind of, all you have to do is connect this right there, and you're gonna have power. All right, so the first thing that we're doing is getting how I'm gonna set up the pods and the gauges. I bought this Autometer gauge pot, and this is probably the worst made part ever, because I was assuming that I removed my top column plastic off and then just install this one, but this one apparently goes on top of this like this, and you just gotta double tape it, and it looks basically very flush. But yeah, I didn't know that, so I was like freaking trying to figure this out for like a good 30 minutes. What?
See that I was right. I just want that to be on the record.
Anyways, so funny story is that I was trying to figure this out with Giselle, my girlfriend, and she was like, oh, why don't you just put it on top and lay it like this? And I was like, hell no, that's super ghetto. But apparently that's the way it is, so.
I was right.
Yeah. Anyways, so first thing we're gonna do is, unfortunately, we do have to drill through the OEM one, but I searched it and this is $20 if I ever wanna go back to stock. So I'm gonna drill 2 holes on each side, so the cables of the gauges can pass right through and you don't see any cables. So I'm gonna drill those 2 holes, pass the cables underneath, and then the Autometer provides you with some double tape, and I'm gonna probably put some more of mine. And then we could just double tape this to this, and it's basically, it forms into like one original piece, and we could go from there. So let me go ahead and start drilling, and yeah.
Don't trip your hand.
So like I was saying, for the column pots, basically what I did is just drill a 1/2 inch hole on both sides, one for the boost, one for the AFR. And now they give you some double-sided tape. I went ahead and got some industrial, like 20-pound double tape, just to be sure. But essentially what we're gonna be doing is just putting double tape here and here, and then literally just putting this like that on top of the OEM one. They also provide you with some fasteners. Like if I wanted to drill a hole through this one right here in the middle maybe and push it in, I'm still thinking about it. But I'm gonna see if I maybe do that, and I'll try to see if I can record it. Double tape, I basically just grabbed some clamps and I held it down just so it could stick together. I'm gonna leave it there for maybe 5 minutes or 10 minutes. And while that sits there, I'm gonna go ahead and grab this harness for the boost gauge and the sensor, connect it to power, and show you guys where I'm gonna tap into power and all of that. So for the boost gauge, it's very simple. All you have is just one loom of wires, your sensor, and your boost gauge. So you have the harness that connects to the actual sensor, which connects to this. And then this sensor connects to your vacuum line, which I already have routed because it's an MR. So I have it inside the dash already. So all I'm gonna do is connect this to my vacuum source, plug this in, and then in reference to power and wires, the only thing I'm gonna be using is red for power and black for ground. I'm just gonna tap into my fuse box that has available spaces, and then I am just gonna ground this. Literally, that's all you have to do. Once you ground it and once you give it power, and this is connected, that's connected to your vacuum source, all you're gonna do is plug this in, turn your ignition on, and you should be set for the boost gauge. Now, besides that, of course, you have to make this neat, put it underneath your dash, and install the pod itself, but pretty simple. Right, so let me explain real quick what I've done so far. Remove the column, and I'm running the wires for the boost gauge. I ran it right through the left side. I don't know if you can see it, so right through there. And it's coming down through here. And then right here, what I did to get some power is I have the power with the little fuse box that I explained already, connected it, have 2 fuses connected. And now for the ground, I extended it a little bit because the ground's all the way here on the left. Let me see if I can get to show you. But I found a, so hard for me to show you. Right there, you could kind of see it. Right there where that ground is. I grounded it there. So now that's a pretty good ground. It's right to the frame. So I have power, I have my ground, and like I said, these cables, you don't need them. This is more for AEM and like ECU logging and Infinity, I think it is. So I just put a tape and a heat shrink wrap around it, just keep it safe. And now all that was missing was basically getting my vacuum source, which like I said is the OEM one. Connected it to the sensor. I'm gonna push it in right now and zip tie it, connect the sensor. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna now that everything's basically connected, I'm gonna connect the battery and start the car, plug the actual gauge right here, and make sure that everything works. Now just plug it in. Wait, this way or this way? This way. Make sure it clicks, and now all you need to do, let me connect the battery. All that you should really need to do is put the key on the AC position, and this boost gauge should turn on. Let me put it straight. Perfect. So you can see that it has power. And it always starts at 0. The car's not on. I'm not going to turn it on because I need to do the AFR gauge, but so far so good. So now let's go into the AFR gauge. For the AFR gauge, same thing. The first thing I'm going to focus on is routing this harness through the right side of the steering column, and then making sure that I use the red and black for power. I am going to use the blue because I am going to be using the blue because I am going to E-tune. So the blue, I need to wait for a harness to come in for data logging, but everything else I am going to basically wrap, heat shrink to, and put it away. So let me go ahead and do that first, and then after that I'll go and connect the sensor, and then figure out where I'm gonna route this from underneath the car inside the cabin of the car. And then it's literally plug and play exactly how I did the boost gauge. So air fuel ratio harness for power, at least. I ended up basically putting the power for the boost and AFR gauge together, and I just basically crimped it to the adapter for the fuse link that I bought. And then same thing with the ground. This is the, let me move this out of the way. This is the ground, and for the ground, same thing. I just basically put them together, made it nice and tight, and crimped it to the actual ground. And that's it. So now I have the 2 harnesses right here, and I'm not gonna make this nice and tidy yet because I still have to figure out the routing for the AFR, the sensor, because I need to bring it underneath the car. But now I have my power for my AFR and my power for my boost gauge. So now it's just a matter of connecting the sensor for the O2 sensor and figuring out what route I'm gonna take for that harness, and then I'll make it all nice and tidy. All right, so now I just want to test for power for both gauges. I haven't connected the O2 sensor, but I just want to make sure that this comes on, and we have power and the 2 gauges that I've connected. So let me make sure that
Don't turn it on.
let me make sure that they both turn on. Please do. They both do. So perfect. I have boost on and the AM on. Now, it's telling me sensor because the sensor is not connected. So now it's just a matter of connecting the sensor. So far, so good. Alrighty, so now we're doing the O2 sensor, and the downpipe that I currently have, I think it's the Boucher Racing one, already comes with a bung right here. So I already removed the bolt, which was rusty as hell. And by the way, if anybody has a rusted bolt here, just turn on the car, leave it on for like 10 minutes, and the heat of this is gonna, help you take that out. I'm gonna install the sensor now, but what worries me is that the drive shaft is right here, literally. So I just hope that it doesn't touch the drive shaft, and it's just, I can route it like that way. But let's see what's going on. Actually, like perfect. So yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure they put it there for a reason. So it sits up. It's like really far away from this. Now I have two options. I could either go in forward and go in through this hole that they have from factory, or there's another one right underneath the carpet. That's this one right here. And I don't know, I'm having a dilemma, either run it through here, run it through the carpet and go down, or run it through here. But my dilemma here is the carpet's like right there, so I don't know if there's gonna be a bump, because look at how big like this sensor is. So it's pretty big. Let me figure it out, and then I'll show you guys at the end result, like if either I went through here or through over there. And literally all you have to do is you just have to push these little rubber grommets up and remove the carpet. Not remove the carpet, but just move it to the side. Out to the side, that's the hole that's right by the drive shaft and right behind the transfer case. I pulled out the grommet, and the O2 sensor didn't fit through there. So literally all I did was grab a Dremel with a sanding disc, and I literally sanded like for 20 seconds. Like, let me show you guys as good as I can. I sanded like this part right here on this side for like 20 seconds, and now it fits right through. So what I'm gonna do is put in the O2 sensor through there and have the cable right through here, and then run it to the driver's side. Now let me show you guys what I'm gonna do to the grommet so it can stay sealed. Is I'm gonna drill a hole right through here, and then I'm gonna cut it. So I'm gonna drill a hole right through there. I'm gonna cut it to the side. So then basically I'm opening it, putting this O2 sensor cable right through the middle, and then I'm gonna put a little bit of black silicone around on the both sides so it could stay sealed and the hole could be perfectly sealed. And I also, before I forget, I had to remove the middle console. That's pretty simple. You basically have two screws here that hold the actual middle compartment, and then you just basically pull this up and it has like two clips holding here, so you just pull it up. Then for this middle console, since I have an MR, it just has a little button. If you have a 5-speed, I think you have to remove the shift knob. You remove these two screws here, and then there's one on that side that I had. I didn't have nothing on this side, and literally it just comes right out. But if anything, there's a couple of how-tos on evolution.net or something like that on the forum, so you can find it there. Let me show you what I did with the grommet. Basically, like I was telling you guys, made a hole through the middle, cut it right through there, and now basically just open it up. Basically, just open it and put in the cable through there, and now insert the grommet, and then I'm gonna put a little bit of silicone where I actually cut through. So, yeah. Tighten up. This is the O2 sensor, routed it behind the heat shield around here. So you can see, and then I drilled the holes. The paint is just so like rust doesn't build on that, even though I think it's just a rust doesn't build anywhere. But wrap the zip tie just to make sure that this cable stays behind the heat shield, and then I put it through. And I don't think I have to put silicone because it's honestly so tight fitting that like I think it's good like that, honestly. So I'm gonna leave it like that for now, and yeah, so I will go through here. Honestly, it's like literally right there, like where the dash is. So I'm just gonna connect the O2 sensor plug and make sure that everything's good, but everything seems to be fine. Just to show you the inside how it looks, literally that is the grommet, with the cable inside, and literally all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna place this like this upward, and I'm gonna connect the cables through here and route it to my dash, or to the driver's side basically. But yeah, came out pretty good. I'm happy with it. Now let's connect the other cable and see if everything's connected right and everything. Just to show you again how I routed it. It's coming through there, went on top. I just plugged in the harness for the O2 sensor, which is going through the middle. Which, like I said, everything was pretty good located with that, me routing it through there. And now I just routed it through the column, and here I have it. I'm gonna connect it to this, start the car, and hopefully all my readings are correct and it's actually working. So we'll see right now. Hopefully this works, and hopefully this works as well. And now let me connect the battery, and we gotta start the car. Connected. Make sure nothing's loose here. This is connected. This is connected. It's saying heat, so I think the sensor is connected correctly, because usually it has to heat up or something. I'm not sure. But let me turn on the car. Make sure it's over here. My car is actually running very lean, but as you can see, oh, well, maybe not. Let's see. It's actually right there, more or less. Well, it's heating up. Let's see how much is what it's doing on idle. Well, the two sensors are connected, so we're good. We have like a vacuum of 17 on here. And here we are at 14.7 while it's warming up, so that should be pretty good. That's how much it should be at idle. So now what I'm gonna do is basically get all of this mess, tighten up, make sure that it looks clean, and make sure that I put the gauges in pots, and we'll go from there. Alrighty, so I just finished putting all the wires together and everything hidden, and I put everything together. I kind of didn't record all of that part. But this is how the finished look came out. It's okay. Let me show you guys something. I don't like the fact that I'm here sitting down and I can basically not see nothing. Like, this is how tall I am. I can't see nothing. I mean, you kind of get to see the most important part, but my fuel is right beneath this, so it's right here. That's hard to see. You just saw that you can't even see that a door's open. It's just kind of like really big, like it's humongous compared to what I actually need to see in the back. So I'm really eager to either get gauges set up on this doubled in, but it's been kind of complicated, honestly. So if anybody knows how to set up your gauges, whatever, I thought I was gonna be able to do what I did a Link Maestro, but it's kind of being a pain in the ass. So I might consider removing this freaking doubled in, selling everything, the kit and everything, moving the AC back, putting a radio down here, and having 3 gauges right here, because I still have to do oil pressure. And I really don't want to have a pillar here. I'm kind of like against the pillar. I just want to have everything like OEM. And I thought this was the most OEM, but it's gonna do for now. I don't know, maybe I'll grow into it. The other part that I didn't like was the part that I had to tape it. You can see that it comes out like a tiny bit, but that's just me being anal. And not only that, but I'm gonna have to figure out when I move the steering wheel. I don't know, it just locked. Let me put in the key. When I put in the steering wheel, it kind of scrapes on that right there. Like, I don't know if you guys can see that little scratch right there. It's scraping on that. So these are the 2 things that I'm gonna be able to do. I'm gonna either remove this, trim it exactly perfect to this edge, or I'm gonna see if I could tape it and push this piece back. So yeah, that's where we're at. Let me show you guys more or less what I did with the wiring, and I wish I would have done that while I was doing it, but I was doing this by myself, and it gets kind of hard to record when you're working by yourself. But For the wiring, let me turn on my flashlight. The wiring, let me remove this fuse box kind of thing. For the wiring, you can see there that the ground and the positive is literally just tucked into the side. Let me remove this if I can, if possible. Yeah, I can. So it's literally like right there with some of the wiring for the alarm. So that's out of the way and pretty clean. I zip tied it. That's not a problem there. Let me put this back in. And then for the sensor, the boost sensor, and the AFR sensor that's back there that I showed you guys where it's coming out, I literally just zip tied it to the top right here. Went from the steering column all the way to the side, and then it's basically all wired up right here, zip tied very neatly underneath this. There's like I think it's the airbag ECU. Right beneath it, there's a big amount of space where you guys could put the wiring in. But that's about it. I think that concludes this video. I know it was kind of hard to record, and it was actually really poorly made, but I'm still going to post it for those that, want to clarify some things. But let me clarify and conclude with how easy it is to install a boost and an AFR gauge. Boost, you just need a vacuum source, which the vacuum source for the Evo OEM, they use the vacuum source right here, which I showed you guys before. That's a T that they use from OEM, from factory. They basically brought it here, ran it around the fender, ground it, and put it back through there. You could also use your blow-off valve and intake manifold right here. You could put in a T anywhere here on these. Don't stress about it. If you want to drill through your firewall, just make sure that you put a grommet. Don't stress that. Then you connect the sensor to the vacuum line, connect it to this, and for power, like I said, I already showed you guys, I bought this to basically add a circuit into my current fuse box inside the interior, underneath the steering wheel. Connect it to that, and then that's it for the boost gauge. Once you get power and a ground, you are good to go with the boost gauge. Now for the AFR, I just connected the power and ground to the actual boost power and ground that I already had. And for the sensor, like I showed you guys, install the bung. If you don't have a bung in your downpipe, probably like at the end, and if you have a test pipe at the beginning of the test pipe, but you don't want to do it so close to the turbo because the heat is just going to cause that sensor to like not last at all. Once you do that, make sure that you route the O2 sensor cable however you want it. You could do it through the front or through the back, however you prefer. I did it through the tunnel of the transfer case. Just put it there, came out, plugged it in, and literally ran the cable here. And that's pretty much it. So this is pretty much it. It's pretty simple to do. Anybody could do this, honestly. Feel confident and do this yourself. So pretty simple thing to do. I'm gonna call it a night. Like I said, you could totally do this. Trust yourself. Pretty easy thing to do. And that's it. I'll see you guys in the next one. And I am gonna try to record. I have a whole lot of parts coming in, so I'm gonna try to record a lot of videos of what I'm gonna do to the engine to maybe help somebody out that might want to go for a 330 to 400, 450 horsepower car. I'll try to record all of that. So I'll see you guys in the next one, and take care.